Well, I'll pay you off after.
Okay. How do you mean that?
Neil Cassidy is Jack Kerouac's alter ego. And then after he wrote the book, Neil wouldn't talk to him, for a year and a half. He wouldn't have anything to do with him. And then I think that Neil became the character that was in the book. I think it was forced upon him, and I think that's what killed him.
He set himself on fire. A little note. This is for all the Buddhists and mysterious things.
This is for the Buddhist.
19-year-old kid. Yeah, burned himself alive.
I mean, they were totally concentrated on each other's, well, they were both interested in these things, but mainly each other. I mean, Jack could read Proust by himself, right? But to share it with Neil.
I come in here yesterday and jumping and jittery around, and so it looked like I was high, so I just let people think I was high.
Neil Cassidy was the individual American, the prototype that contained Americana.
I heard you got busted.
Oh, yes, I got busted.
What happened?
There were 14 of us sitting in Kesey's, and here come 15 deputies. One of them was a girl, doesn't count.
Yeah.
About midnight. Possession of marijuana, I don't know.
So there's a lot of things in his books where I can see him putting on this macho trip, which was so foreign to him. So then he meets Neil, who is just naturally, gracefully macho. A lot of prowess with women and, not the fisticuffs type. As I said, Neil would run if anybody wanted to attack him, But just this swaggering sort of macho thing that I'm sure Jack envied, the ease with which Neil just could do it. And yet Neil also had the humane, compassionate nature that Jack had, so they understood each other on that level. And yet Jack was so awkward and really funny watching them both go down the street together. And then in Jack, you see, Neil envied the education and the security of a middle-class home or something, or a place in society. Neil had none.
So in the last page of On the Road, I describe how the hero, Dean Moriarty's come to see me all the way from the West Coast just for a day or two. We've just been back and forth across the country several times in cars, and now our adventures are over. We're still great friends, but we have to go into later phases of our lives.
Neil was called to go on a hold down, they call it, which means you had to go to some town on the run and stay there for 2 weeks and run the locals. So when he left, he said, well, my best gal, my best pal, don't do anything I wouldn't do, kind of thing. And I was insulted, that he would have even thought that I would do anything like that when he was gone, and so was Jack. He blushed scarlet, and for 2 weeks we didn't look at each other. We pussyfooted and avoided each other, and he stayed in the attic and didn't eat, and I'd take care of the kids, and, we're all just going, both of us just way out of our way not to get anywhere near each other. And I said to Neil, now, did you mean that, or were you just saying it because you were afraid it might happen and you didn't want to look like a cuckold or something? He said, no, I thought it might be nice. I said, okay, let's do it your way and see how nice it is, because I really was mad. So it was not hard to arrange. Jack and I had been holding off. So then everything was fine, because when Neil came back from the next job, which was just, overnight or a day or so, he could sense the change immediately, so we never had to confess and never say anything. So then we all had meals together, and we'd all sit around the table, and Neil would snipe at Jack, from time to time, which was wonderful, because, I got all this attention from Neil that had been lacking for a long time. And they both just sort of compete with each other and both try to entertain me, and I'm sitting there with, And then they never went out. This is when we sat around and read plays and talked in that tape recorder thing and listened to music, and it was fine. They both stayed home watching the other one.
Jack's erotic life was rather seasonal. I mean, he didn't live in New York, for one thing. He lived during those years. He lived on Long Island with his mother. And then when he had finished writing a stretch of stuff and was ready to play, he would come into New York for 3 days or a week and simply crash in other people's paths, mine very often, during which he would usually get involved with a woman, and that would go on until he felt entrapped or it was time to go back to work, and then he'd go home.
People really wanted to make contact with him, you know, like physically. Women were, wanted him to make love to them and so on. I remember one woman saying to me at a party, "You're 21, I'm 29, I have to fuck him now."
I don't know, he was so kind and so nice and so gentle and sensitive and intelligent, and Jesus, I can't think of enough adjectives to say.
So would you say that that women were definitely second in his life to writing?
Yes, everything was second in his life to writing.
He knew he couldn't stay in one place and raise a family. He kept dreaming about it and talking about it. And I don't think he ever consciously spelled this out. But the evidence shows that all the women that he was closest to were either married or attached to somebody and no threat. And that's why he got along so well with those of us who were safe. He knew enough, at least instinctively, that there was no way he could settle down and take care of a child. He couldn't take care of anybody.
I keep falling in love with my mother. I don't want to hurt her. Of all people to hurt. Every time I see her, she's grown older. But her uniform always amazes me for its Dutch simplicity and the doll she is. The doll-like way she stands, bow-legged in my dreams, waiting to serve me. And I am only an Apache, smoking hashi in old Kabashi by the lamp.
I never heard such language in my life as Jack used on his mother and his mother used on Jack. But he was calling her a filthy old fish cunt. Get out of here, you old whore. And a really awful language, both of them drunk.
She drank too.
Did she? She was as much of an alcoholic as he was, according to him.
Stop that.
I know that was the whole secret of it. They would drink together in those years.
Now, his mother was a very down-to-earth, very, very intelligent, capable woman. And she grew embarrassed at the obvious drunkenness of Kerouac, and especially when he started to get maudlin about his feelings for her. And she said, Jackie, don't talk about these things in front of your guest. And he said, why not? He said, like, you're the only woman I've ever wanted to marry, Ma, There
was a little alley in San Francisco, back of the Southern Pacific Station at 3rd and Townsend, in red brick of drowsy, lazy afternoons with everybody at work in offices. In the air you feel the impending rush of their commuter frenzy. As soon they'll be charging en masse from Market and Sansom buildings on foot and in buses and all well-dressed through working man Frisco of walk-up truck drivers. And even the poor grime-bemarked 3rd Street of lost bums, even Negroes so hopeless and long left east, and meanings of responsibility and try, that now all they do is stand there spitting in the broken glass, sometimes 50 in one afternoon against one wall at 3rd and Howard. Here's all these Millbrae and San Carlos neat necktied producers and commuters of America and steel civilization rushing by with San Francisco Chronicles and green call bulletins, not even enough time to be disdainful. They've got to catch 130, 132, 134, 136, all the way up to 146, till the time of evening supper in homes of the railroad earth, when high in the sky the magic stars ride above the following hotshot freight trains. It's all in California. It's all a sea. I swim out of it in afternoons of sun-hot meditation in my jeans with head on handkerchief, on brakeman's lantern, or, if not working, on book. I look up at blue sky of perfect lost purity and feel the warp of wood of old America beneath me. And I have insane conversations with Negroes in second-story windows above, and everything is pouring in. The switching moves of boxcars in that little alley, which is so much like the alleys of Lowell, and